Tensions in the Middle East exploded into open warfare as Islamic Republic of Iran launched a direct and large-scale attack against the State of Israel, firing a barrage of more than 400 unmanned aerial vehicles, commonly known as drones. This aggressive act represents a dramatic and dangerous escalation in the long-simmering conflict between the two regional powers, moving their struggle from the shadows of covert operations and proxy battles into the realm of direct state-on-state military confrontation. The night sky over several nations was streaked with the trails of interceptor missiles and the fiery explosions of downed drones as a coalition of force led by Israel and heavily supported by the United States scrambled to neutralize the unprecedented aerial assault. The attack triggered air raid sirens across the entirety of Israel, from the southern port city of Eilat to the northern communities near the Lebanese border, forcing millions of civilians to seek safety in bomb shelters and protected spaces in a nationwide display of emergency preparedness. While the full extent of the damage was still being assessed, the immediate focus remained on the sheer scale of the Iranian operation and the robust, multi-layered defensive response that met it in the skies over the region. The Iranian attack was a highly coordinated and geographically diverse operation, demonstrating a level of planning that surprised some regional analysts. Intelligence reports indicate that the launch were not confined to Iranian territory alone. A significant number of the drones were reportedly launched from western Iran, but waves of the unmanned aircraft also originated from locations in Iraq and Syria, where Iranian-backed militia groups hold considerable influence and operational freedom. Furthermore, military sources confirmed that Houthis control areas in Yemen were also used as a launchpad for some of the longest-range drones, adding another vector to the complex attack. This multi-front approach was designed to overwhelm Israel's sophisticated air defense system by saturating them with threats arriving from different directions and at staggered intervals. The primary weapon used appeared to be a variant of the Shahed 136, a delta-wing kamikaze drone known for its long-range but relatively slow speed. However, initial analysis from debris suggests that newer and possibly more advanced models were also part of the mix, intended to test the capabilities of the Israeli and American defensive shield. The flight path of these drones took them over the sovereign airspace of several neighborhood countries, most notably Iraq and the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, turning the skies of these nations into a live-fire interception zone and placing their government in a difficult geopolitical position. The defense response was immediate, massive, and showcased an extraordinary level of international cooperation. Long before the first drone approached Israeli airspace, a combination of satellite surveillance and powerful early warning radar systems operated by both Israel and the United States Central Command had detected the mass launch. This crucial lead time, estimated to be several hours, was vital in orchestrating the complex counter operation. The Israeli Air Force was the first line of active defense, scrambling dozens of its most advanced fighter jets, including the F-35I Adir and F-15I Ram. These aircraft were tasked with engaging the drones far beyond Israel's border in what is often referred to as long-range interception. Pilots engaged swarms of the slow-moving targets over neighboring countries, turning a potential disaster into a series of distant, silent victories in the dark. Simultaneously, Israel's own formidable ground-based air defense network roared to life. This system is comprised of several interconnected layers, each designed to counter different types of threats. The Arrow 3 and Arrow 2 systems, designed for exo-atmospheric and high-altitude interception of ballistic missiles, were on high alert, but it was the lower tier systems that did much of the work against the drone threats. The David Sling system, which counter cruise missiles and large caliber rockets, was reportedly responsible for numerous interceptions of drones that managed to evade the initial fighter screen. As some of the drones drew closer, the iconic Iron Dome system, famous for its success against shorter-range rockets from Gaza, was also activated to provide a final protective blanket over a populated area. The result was a stunning display of defensive technology, with streaks of light from interceptors missiles crisscrossing the night sky above Israeli cities, followed by booms that echoed for miles as the incoming threats were neutralized. Crucially, the defense of Israel was not a solo effort. The United States military played a central and indispensable role in blunting the Iranian attack. Under the direct authority of the White House and the Pentagon, American assets in the regions were fully engaged. The United States Navy Aegis-class destroyer, positioned in the eastern Mediterranean Sea, launched their own sophisticated SM-3 and SM-6 interceptor missiles, successfully destroying dozens of drones before they could pose a threat. In the air, United States Air Force F-15E Strike Eagles and F-16 Fighting Falcon, operating from bases in the region, joined their Israeli counterparts in hunting the drones. In a statement from the Pentagon, Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth confirmed the American involvement, stating, "At the direction of the President, U.S. forces in the Middle East have successfully intercepted dozens of unmanned aerial vehicles launched by Iran and its proxies. We acted in seamless coordination with our Israeli partners to defeat this reckless and unprecedented attack. Our commitment to Israel's security is ironclad, and we will not hesitate to act to protect our force and our allies in the regions." In a development that highlighted the shifting dynamics of the Middle East, there was also quiet but effective cooperation from regional Arab partners. The government of Jordan, despite its often critical public stance toward Israeli policies, took the pragmatic steps of protecting its own sovereignty and contributing to the regional defense. The Royal Jordanian Air Force was activated, and Jordanian air defense systems were credited with shooting down a significant number of Iranian drones that violated the kingdom's airspace on their way to Israel. This action was seen by observers as a clear signal to Tehran that regional stability was a priority for Amman. There were also unconfirmed but credible reports of similar defensive actions taken by Saudi Arabia as drones launched from Yemen traversed the northern part of the kingdom. This de facto alignment of Israel, the United States, and key Sunni Arab states against a common Iranian threat marked a watershed moment, illustrating how shared security concerns are reshaping long-standing political divisions. For the people of Israel, it was a long and terrifying night. The constant wail of the Ziva Atom, or red color, incoming rocket alert system became the soundtrack of the evening. Families in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Haifa, and Beersheba, as well as in smaller towns and kibbutzim across the country, spent hours in their mamads, the reinforced safe rooms required in all new Israeli buildings. The psychological impact of a direct attack from the territory of the Islamic Republic itself, a state that has long called for Israel's destruction, was profound. Despite the high stress, the Israeli public by and large followed the instructions of the Home Front Command, a testament to decades of civil defense drills. While the West's majority of the drones were intercepted, a small number did manage to penetrate the dense defensive screen. Initial reports from the Israel Defense Force (IDF) indicate minor damage at the Nevatim Air Base in the southern Negev Desert, a key facility that houses some of Israel's F-35 fleet. The IDF spokesperson emphasized that the base remained fully operational. Emergency service reported a small number of injuries, mostly minor ones sustained while people were rushing to shelters, and a few cases of individuals being treated for severe anxiety. The response from the United States government was swift and resolute. President Donald Trump convened an emergency meeting of his national security team in the White House Situation Room upon receiving news of the unfolding attack. The meeting included Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, and CIA Director John Ratcliffe. Following the meeting, President Trump spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, offering his full support. A short time later, a strongly worded statement was released from the White House. President Trump condemned the brazen and reckless attack by the Iranian regime, vowing that Iran would be held fully accountable for this unprovoked act of aggression. The statement praised the effectiveness of the joint defensive operation and reaffirmed the unbreakable bond between the United States and Israel. Our support for the people of Israel and for their right to defend their nation is absolute. The statement concluded, adding a stark warning: let this serve a message to any nation or entity that wish to harm Israel. America is watching, and we will not stand by. The diplomatic fallout began almost immediately. Secretary of State Marco Rubio embarked on a flurry of diplomatic activity, making calls to foreign ministers across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. In his conversation, he stressed the need for a unified international condemnation of Iran's action and began laying the groundwork for a new, even harsher sanctions regime targeting Iran's drone and missile programs, as well as the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, which commands them. Secretary Rubio announced his intention to request an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council to address what he called a grave threat to international peace and security. He instructed the U.S. ambassador to the UN to introduce a resolution demanding full condemnation of Iran and immediate international inspections of its military facilities. From Tehran's perspective, the attack was framed not as an act of aggression, but as a justified and measured retaliation. Iranian state-controlled media, including the IRNA news agency and Press TV, broadcasted statements from government and military officials declaring their operation codename True Promise a resounding success. They claimed the attack was a legitimate act of self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter, launched in response to a recent alleged Israeli airstrike that killed several high-ranking IRGC commanders at an Iranian diplomatic compound in Damascus, Syria. Iranian officials asserted that their objectives were military in nature and that they had deliberately avoided targeting civilian population centers. The commander of the IRGC Aerospace Force went on state television to claim that the operation had achieved all its goals by demonstrating Iran's capability and willingness to strike Israel directly, thereby re-establishing a new equation of deterrence. These statements were aimed at both a domestic audience to project strength and an international one to frame the attack as a limited punitive measure rather than the opening salvo of a full-scale war. The global reaction was one of the widespread, along with most Western and allied nations quickly condemning Iran. The United Kingdom, France, and Germany issued a joint statement denouncing the attack as a dangerous and destabilizing act that risked plunging the entire Middle East into a wider conflict. They called for immediate de-escalation from all parties. Other nations, however, offered a more guarded response. Both Russia and China issued statements calling for restraint and calm on all sides, avoiding direct condemnation of Iran and instead pointing to the escalating cycle of violence in the region as the root cause of the current crisis. For the Arab nations in the Gulf, such as the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, who have normalized relations with Israel, the attack was a terrifying reminder of their proximity to Iran and the potential for regional conflict to spiral out of control. Their official statements condemned the escalation and called for diplomatic solutions, reflecting a deep-seated fear of being caught in the crossfire between Iran and the Israeli-American alliance. As the sun rose over the Middle East, a tense and uncertain calm settled over the region. While Israel and its allies could claim a near-perfect operational victory in terms of military defense, the strategic landscape had been irrevocably altered. The long-feared direct confrontation between Iran and Israel was no longer a hypothetical scenario. It was now a reality. The attack shattered the unwritten rules of their shadow war and established a new and much lower threshold for direct military action. The immediate economic consequences were already being felt, with global oil prices surging on fears of a disruption to shipping through the vital Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway controlled by Iran. The world now holds its breath, waiting for two most critical answers that will determine the future of the region. The first is the nature and scale of Israel's inevitable response. The Israeli War Cabinet was convened in a secure underground bunker in Tel Aviv to weigh its options, which range from a massive retaliatory strike on Iranian military and nuclear facilities to a more measured diplomatic and economic counteroffensive. The second and perhaps more consequential question is how the Trump administration will navigate the crisis. The White House faced the monumental challenge of demonstrating unwavering support for its closest regional ally while simultaneously trying to prevent an all-out war that could engulf the entire Middle East with devastating consequences for American interests and the global economy. The drones may have been shot down, but the conflict has now reached an altitude from which it will be incredibly difficult to safely descend. Many of my listeners, like 70%, haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel. And so many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed. And that is actually what makes the show going. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask again and again, because it enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, if this is your first time listening to Sok Cambridge, you don't have to subscribe. You guys, you're first ones on me. But if you have watched the show before, it's like you are a freeloader now. So all I would ask you is, if you have seen the show before and you like it, help me, help my team here. Hit the subscribe button and we will continue to build the show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Now hit that subscribe and like button now. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. I will see you soon. Bye for now.